Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I have a very special guest as I am joined by highly accomplished entrepreneur, author, and he has 25 years of tech experience, 25 plus years actually. He is the author of chatGPT, and he co-founded the largest marketing influencer company. His name is Dan Steele. So we're going to be talking to him about his career and his story and about chatGPT and what people can expect with that. So Dan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sounds good. My first big business accomplishment was in 2005, where I sold a gaming company to a company here in Las Vegas. I went on to spend about 5 years as a very mediocre professional poker player. And by the time I got done, it was just like a really hard way to make a decent living. By the time I got done, I said, I should look at getting back into business because I seem to do better over in that field. So I went to work for a company called Silly Bands. We went from $0 to $100 million in sales without spending a dollar outside of social media. I built and executed the social media strategy, and then I stuck around and I helped scale with the business scaling and then working on angel investments for the founder. Much like the person who invented the Chicken McNugget, I did not get rich from that project, but it was a good step back into the business community. From there, I went on to start my own agency. This was in the early days of Twitter, where it was clickbait. Like, you won't believe what happens when you click here. And we were bringing celebrities, can't say who they were because we were under NDA, upwards of $100,000 a month in found revenue when they had never made money off of Twitter. At some point, we realized that the person I was working with, we number one, liked working together. And two, it would be better to be the platform as opposed to being on the influencer side. So we went on and built out a platform, which eventually evolved into what is today Influential. And today, Influential is the biggest influencer marketing company in the world by number of employees and revenue. In 2017, my role changed. At co-founding it, I was the COO, so I worked on product, culture, and growing the business. Our board wanted to look at bringing in professional management, so my role changed from COO to president. I had to roll my sleeves back down and be in meetings all the time, traveling a good bit. I really didn't enjoy it. And I grew up poor in Michigan and never left North America. So I thought, now's a good time to leave to see the world. I had some money in the bank from Influential, and I spent from May of 2017 until the pandemic traveling the world, consulting on projects. I built a few platforms going back and forth between London and Romania. The pandemic brought me back to stay. I reconnected with my now wife. We're pretty firmly planted here in Las Vegas now, other than we're starting to look at land in Tennessee where we'll build a vacation home and then eventually retire there in, 10, 15 years. So I'm here in Vegas. I do a lot of nonprofit work. The co-founder of Influential, the technical co-founder, Peter, him and his best friend from college started a nonprofit here called Startup Vegas. And this will get into how I got into ChatGPT. Started a nonprofit here in Vegas called Startup Vegas because when we did Influential, there wasn't a ton of infrastructure here. So the idea was to help connect talent and companies and venture capitalists all together here. And we do 3 types of programming. One is a monthly meetup. One is it's a smaller event, but it's a group mentorship. So we break up into groups of 6. We talk about problems that we have as founders of companies. And the other founders of companies are able to tell you if they have experience with that problem, how they deal with it. And then the third is a Shark Tank like competition, or not even a competition. People come up and they pitch their business. And then instead of getting a check from a venture capitalist, which some people have from our pitch events, there's venture capitalists in the crowd. They get feedback from people who've gone through the fundraising process, and they tell them, here's where you can clean up your pitch. Here's, so you can get showtime ready, I guess, is the way that I look at it. And from that, I kind of MC that one, and I spend a good bit of time working with local startups. So onwards to ChatGPT. In the work that I do with the startups, it's very repetitive. There's just fundamentals in business that you can teach, and it's pretty simple once you understand it. But until you understand it, you run into the wall a lot. So I was looking at ChatGPT, and I'm like, I could use this tool, and I could start digitizing the things that I'm helping these startups with. So that way, maybe I'm not repeating myself so much, and I can make videos. Have ChatGPT help me with scripts. I can make videos. And then I can send those ahead of time so that people can understand the lesson that I'm teaching, and then we can talk through it and be more efficient. And in that, I started writing these lessons. I'm like, wow, this is pretty robust, and I'm able to get a lot of content published pretty quick. I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, what, do you think I could get ChatGPT to write a book about ChatGPT through prompts? And she just kind of laughed, and I laughed, and I went back to my computer that night, and I started messing with it. I couldn't get it to give you, because you need at least 2,000 words for a chapter, and I could only get 400 to 600 words out at a time. So it took me about a week to figure out how to get enough content out of ChatGPT to make a chapter. And from that point forward, I just started sprinting with it. I sat and worked, my nighttime, put the book together, learned how to publish on Amazon, which was surprisingly easy. And then all of a sudden I was a published author, and I was getting feedback from people. And this is a matter of weeks ago, I'm sorry, a couple weeks ago. And I'm getting contacted by people saying how it actually helped them. And, through this process, what I learned and what my hope is now, because I did this haphazard, didn't have a plan, didn't even have a marketing plan. I just published the book and then asked my friends to buy it and leave comments on it. And it seemed to go pretty well. And I'm getting attention and, having conversations with folks like you. What I learned through this process so far, which was just, kind of a goof at first, is that ChatGPT opens up technology to everybody. When we were looking at artificial intelligence 5, 7, 10 years ago, we were looking at all of the blue collar jobs that we thought it would replace. Self-checkout, you can walk, there's airport. I was in the airport in Nashville, and you can walk into the store with a credit card. You put the credit card in, and then you walk out with the items that you want, and it just bills you, and there's no person. And that's one way that is kind of taking jobs away. And people were really worried about, truck drivers, which are the backbone of our country, taking that away. And the streets just aren't designed for self-driving. So you need at least the last mile. Not too many jobs were disrupted. But man, is ChatGPT and OpenAI really opening up and democratizing technology? So, for instance, I was able to make a website, build content, make video content, get everything going. It's going to take a while to launch the website, publish a book, and get it out there on the internet all by myself, with the only help that I had was from my wife, who made some graphics for me. And I've worked in technical spaces, but I've never written a line of code. And my hope is I'm learning with this new project and this new pursuit on my nights and weekends, that I can help expose how helpful it can be to anybody. And the tools that big corporations have to lead in search engine optimization, to make good content for their social media, to make good content for their website. All of those things are now available to everybody. And if I can help a couple people embrace it and really thrive in it, I really think I'm doing a good job.
Well, that's one thing my boss was saying, how he thought we should check it out. So definitely wanted to have you on. So let's talk more about the chat GPT uh, and creating content, because I know you can create lyrics, you can create all kind of stuff as you talked about, but what happens, or do you think it's possible if, let's say, I had it to create me a song? Who's to say somebody's not going to come back if that song takes off and says, hey, you know what? I wrote that program. I deal with Chat GPT. I need my money from you. How do you know the content is actually original, or do you know?
That's so number one, every dollar that I'm making from the book sales, I'm just keeping put away in case I have this problem. I believe, to my understanding, that the content that I make with ChatGPT, it can't be copywritten by them or by me, meaning that it's just fair use for anybody out there. So anybody, if you want to, you can go buy a Kindle copy of my book and publish it, and there's nothing I can do about it. You can write the book on ChatGPT too. Actually, I did the book on ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT 4 just launched 2 days ago, and my book on ChatGPT 4 just went up today on Amazon. I don't think there's anything you can do about it. Where it gets really interesting, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a curious person, so I don't have any legal background, is the information. So the way artificial intelligence works from a high level is you have a computer that's trained to process images or words or songs or video. And in the early days, you would train, a picture of an orange. Actually, when you use the CAPTCHA system, the I'm not a robot, and it's like, click everything that's a school bus here. You're actually training somebody's artificial intelligence by saying that's a school bus, that's not a school bus. And the way OpenAI started, they had just a bunch of people training it that this is a school bus. And then they opened it up to the public, more in text than a school bus, but you get the idea. They opened it up to the public and started getting more and more inputs. And the more inputs and the more data that it puts in, the more it learns. But there's definite copyright troubles, and I think it's going to take us years to figure that out. Right now, somebody was, I'd say, foolish enough to train an AI model only on images used by Getty Images. And Getty is a very wealthy, powerful organization, and they have the legal chops to kind of say, hey, what the heck's going on, guys? And they sued the people, and we'll see. That'll start to set precedents. But even with YouTube, as an example of how long this can take, with YouTube, that started in 2004, 2005, and they're just now starting to make it so that content creators whose content is used in video. So say I open a video with a song, that content creator can either get part of the monetization or the song can be cut out of the video. We're just starting to catch up to that near 20 years later. So I think we have a long road ahead on intellectual property and the rights of it. I have no idea where it could go. Our legal system just wasn't designed to move at the pace that technology moves.
Well, you're definitely right about that. And since we're on the subject of ChatGPT, tell listeners what they can expect when they read your book and all that good stuff.
Okay. So the first book, and like in the conversation, I was like, well, what if I wrote the book on ChatGPT? So the book is called The Book on ChatGPT. So I could walk around and say, hey, I wrote the book on ChatGPT in a kind of cheeky way. With the book on ChatGPT, we go through and we break down, the origin, what AI language models are, in a little more in-depth way than I did in the previous 5 minutes of this episode. How it's trained, potential biases, and places where it can improve. And then in the book on ChatGPT 4, which just went up on Amazon today, it goes through and talks about the differences, and then talks about the differences between ChatGPT 3 and ChatGPT 4. The new things that it's able to do, for instance, it's more conversational. It pulls better context. It's able to listen. You're able to feed or train the public is able to train the AI with music and video now. So it's listening to music and watching videos. And then how to use some of the prompts and commands on how to use ChatGPT effectively, ChatGPT 4 effectively, and then what the future looks like, which who knows? When I explain where we're at in technology, I don't know if you remember, but when I was younger, go to the hardware store and there would be a big funnel and you'd put a penny in it. And at the top of the funnel, it would start spinning and it was a slow spin. And then when it got to the middle, it got a little faster. Then at the bottom, it was going just really fast. And I look at the invention of the internet that, back in the like 70s and 80s when they were just able to message each other across the world is the very top of that. And then in the 90s when it became open to the public, it gets down to like 3/4 of the way up. And then with the smartphone, we get about halfway down, and now we're down at the bottom, and it's turning and spinning so fast that anybody who claims to understand where it's headed is not being genuine with you.
Well, let's talk about what technology you feel that's going to have the most influential and short-term impact.
So for the everyday person, like I said, it democratizes everything. So it 5 years ago, I was starting a business. I went to my friends who, they do movies now, but they did a commercial for me back then. I spent about $5,000 on the commercial, and that was getting, really good deals. It was a great quality commercial. Couldn't ask for more. It was like professional quality, like the ones that they pay, $25,000, $50,000 for. And I was able to chop it up into different bits, and I was turning it into marketing materials. That now I'm able to make videos. I can either type in what I want the video to be, contextually, or I can ask ChatGPT to write a script for me. I can have it convert articles, whatever, and I can turn that into video. That's just one example of the things that have changed. Another is search engine optimization. So let's say I sell cupcakes and I'm starting a cupcake business, and there's a bunch of cupcake shops in Las Vegas. And they all have been there for a while. There are keywords that people search, and I can go in and I can tell ChatGPT, hey, these are the keywords that I really need to hit on my website. Will you make a front page for the words for the front page for my website? And it'll spit out keywords that are rich in the keywords that you need for your website. And you can speed up. Usually search engine optimization on the low end for a small business, you're paying $1,500 a month for it. Big companies are paying $25,000, $50,000 a month to compete. And now somebody that wants to take the time, you got to read some articles, you got to do some work, but somebody that wants to take the time to understand search engine optimization can go in and compete with big corporations on search terms that are important for their business without having at the low end $1,500 a month, at the high end $25,000, $50,000 a month.
So for those who want to check out the ChatGPT and have never checked it out, tell them how they do that, website, any apps, or how do they get to it and check it out?
Sure. So there's just the data and text of ChatGPT. You go to openai.com and then you set up a username and password, and it's free to use. You can my initial uses, like the first things I did, one was I was writing a long email, and I'm like, hey, can you correct my grammar here? And it did. And it made like just a eloquently written email. Now, every email that I type out kind of the body of the content, and then I paste it over there. It fixes it. It makes it really nice and professional, and then I send the email. You can ask it questions like I learned a lot. Yeah, my dog turned 2 yesterday, and in my experience, this is something that I never looked up on the internet. Just when a dog turned 2 is when you started feeding it adult food. Well, it turns out since my dog's only 25 pounds, it should have went on adult food like 6 to 12 months earlier than we're starting to make the switch. So you can ask questions like that, or there's only 2 of us, my wife and I, in the house, and when there's tough math, she'll say, hey, what is 1/8 of a teaspoon? And I'll usually just like Google it, pull it up, and or how many ounces, or, you know what I mean, like those conversions. And usually got to search, ounce to teaspoon, or how many teaspoons are in an ounce, and then do the math. And now with ChatGPT, I can say, how many teaspoons are in 1/8 of an ounce, something like that. So there's just about anything that you can do with language, any question that you have, you can find through ChatGPT. And then there's tools that you can use, like for the videos that I'm doing for the content to help train people. What I do is I write out a script. The first course I did, I don't even know that I want to publish it because I learned so much along the way, but it's not great. But in 2 weeks, I made 32 videos that were 2 to 5 minutes long about the fundamentals of starting an early business. And I used a company called Pictory. So it's like the word victory.ai. And basically what I did is I typed out rough scripts. I used ChatGPT to kind of clean up the content, make it more eloquent. And then I took that text over to Pictory, and it suggested video pictures, so like it's the opening scene is this picture with a slide for 8 seconds, then transitions to the next bit of text with that, and they give you a voiceover narration of your videos. So I generally tend to pick a British lady to do the narration because I feel like they sound smarter than I do. And then I'm able to put out, this high quality video content without having to do, take after take, trying to get the perfect video content out there. So that's one tool. I want to pull up an app real quick. My friend's wife actually made this, and it's called Tall Tales. I think it's only on iPhone right now, but if you have kids, you can go in the Tall Tales app, and it'll make custom bedtime stories for your kids. So you type in your kid's name and something that they like, and it'll give you a bedtime story every night. So you can maybe even hit tougher subjects and turn it into a fairy tale type bedtime story. I'm pretty sure that they're that advanced. So you'll see a lot of applications that you don't even know are using ChatGPT actually use OpenAI and ChatGPT to improve themselves.
Okay. So when you decide to invest in a company, what do you look for to make that decision whether to make that investment or not?
Yeah, so my investments I don't make large investments, relative to the size of, some people are getting $100 million investments. But when I make an investment, I look for something that, one, I understand the industry very well, and two, I can kind of roll my sleeves up and help. For instance, I just invested in a company called Space Together. The founder, he was a pastor, and he had to move from his church into a new building. And he's like, well, I only spend 2 hours a week in the actual building. Isn't there something like Airbnb where I can just use, people's space part-time? And to his surprise, there wasn't. And so he started a platform where places like churches are a great example because they have usually a kitchen. So if you're doing catering, you can go in and instead of tearing your house up doing catering or pastries or whatever, you can go in and use the commercial kitchen in the church. There's a daycare, there's a gym. So there's a ton of different businesses that can use that space in fractional amounts of time. and that helps the business's budget because they're not using the space anyway. So that one, I work with them about an hour to an hour and a half a week. We do a weekly call. I'm able to bring in, my marketing experience and then the experiences that I've had because they're in a fundraising mode right now. So the experiences that I've had fundraising and really impact the business in an hour a week without having to do that much work, but kind of help steer it.
Talk about what you feel the future of influencer marketing looks like to you. Where do you see it going?
So it's in a really interesting stage because you have people that have massive audience that don't drive any purchase intent. So algorithms like the TikTok algorithm or the Instagram Reels, for instance, the Instagram, I made a viral, I didn't even make, I posted a viral video of a news reporter talking about the most dangerous corner in Los Angeles for car accidents. And a car accident happens while he's talking about it. And that video jumped from like 1,000 to 20,000 in a week, and it jumped from 20,000 to 70,000 in the last 2 days. But nobody's coming around to my page and seeing that my dog's birthday was yesterday or anything like that. So you're getting little bits of attention with a lot of creators, but then you have creators like yourself who are creating meaningful conversations, and people like podcasts and that sort of thing drive an actual intent to purchase. So even if you're only reaching 2,000 people, I don't know what your audience is, but somebody else, a podcast I did earlier, they only reached 2,000 people, but they had meaningful advertisers spending budget with them because they're able to influence a purchase intent. Whereas, we were managing somebody that was they were around 10 million followers on TikTok. And we went through the long process of putting together merchandise, putting up a website, all of that. And they sold less than 100 units because they're always competing for intention and they don't drive purchase intent. So I think the more custom, bespoke audiences where you can reach and talk to people on a real basis, I think that those like micro communities are going to be more important than somebody with 25 million followers.
Talk about how you got the first 100,000 followers for Silly Bands.
Oh, that was do you remember Farmville, the game on Facebook?
Absolutely.
Okay, so playing Farmville, you needed to have friends to take turns, and the more friends you had, the more turns you got. I think they had to engage in the game. So I found these Facebook groups that I think the first one I went through, you paid $5. You paid the admins $5 and they pushed your account to grow it. And once you got to the 5,000 friends, you were able to use all the turns that you wanted on Farmville. So I built 100 accounts. Me and my buddy Brent built 100 accounts just up to the max of 5,000. And when I started working with Silly Bands, I went and invited all those people to the Silly Bands Facebook page. So it went from like a couple hundred followers to 30,000 to 100,000, and then it really went viral. And the interesting thing that I didn't know what I was doing at the time was, most of the people playing Farmvilles were moms and they had kids, so it really hit the demographic, and we were able to, really make that go viral using silly Farmville groups.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about any current or upcoming projects that you're working on that people need to know about.
So right now I'm kind of, I'm working on a project called Let's Rollo. It's letsrollo.com. We're replacing business cards with digital business cards, and it helps you keep track of your contacts. And there's a lot of cool automations in there. And then, the rest of my time is advising companies that I invested in, or, just seeing where this book thing takes me and having really cool conversations with people like you.
All right. Well, so everybody can keep up with what you're doing besides the website you just gave out. You got any other websites, or how can people contact you and keep up with you?
Sure. Actually, for anybody that would like to, if you get the Kindle edition of the book on ChatGPT or the book on ChatGPT 4 and message me on LinkedIn, I'm DTSTEELE on LinkedIn. So linkedin.com/DT Steele. If you message me that you got and show me that you got the Kindle version of the book, I'll send you a signed paperback copy of that. So come and connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear about, hopefully this is helpful. And, if you have questions about ChatGPT in general, feel free to reach out. I love helping people, and I'd love to help as many people get and embrace ChatGPT as possible.
Absolutely. Close us out with some final thoughts, maybe something I forgot to touch on that you would like to talk about, or just any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
So it can be scary seeing how fast all of this is happening and how much content you can make and that sort of thing. But you can't fake authenticity. So they'll never be able to make another Dan Steele or another Curveball, right? Nobody will be able to speak exactly the way that you speak, or the way that I speak. And being authentic and genuine is important. And I'm sure that's why people listen to your podcast. And just people need to realize that we aren't going to get taken over by machines. This is more like a calculator for words than anything. And it's a cool tool, making it available, making things that were really expensive 5 years ago available to anybody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Steele, the author of ChatGPT. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out and, get Dan's books and check out his videos. If you need help learning how to use it, follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. Let everybody know about ChatGPT. It's pretty neat. Any suggestions on guests or topics, cjackson102 at cox.net. Please be sure to tell a friend about the show. And as always, thank you for listening. Dan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Have a great day.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.